welcome to my channel. So today I want to talk about why grief is so devastating for us all. There's a few reasons for that I want to sort of highlight today, and hopefully encourage you to reflect within yourself maybe what death means to you. Are you afraid of death? Are you afraid of dying? What is it that you're afraid of? Where did the fear come from? Was it instilled from childhood? What has been your experiences in life through death? Have you witnessed and been the witness of death within the family, friends, etc.? So why is grief devastating? This is what I want to talk about today. My name's Melissa Newman. I'm a grief therapist of Rising Strong Holistic Healing. I hope you enjoy this topic today. So grief and loss, it is a devastating experience for many of us. One key reason that I think contributes to this is that children are not well educated on death and dying, often shunned from the experience, hidden from the experience, as in, do we take and allow our children to go to the funeral? And why? Why don't we want our children to go to a funeral? There's many reasons for that. We feel that the children aren't emotionally equipped to be able to go through that experience. For some reasons I totally get, as in within that funeral process, some people within the congregation, I'm going to use the congregation word, not the best probably choice of words, but within that gathering of people at the wake, some people can have quite very loud outbursts with their tears and their emotion, the outpouring of emotion. But there's nothing wrong with that. I do not see that is fearful. It could feel fearful for children. Yes, I do understand that. But what I do absolutely believe in is that these are prime teaching moments to educate our children through life's adversities. How else can we build and create amazing, resilient beings to enter the world if we haven't educated them how to manage our emotions through these experiences of devastating adversity, the real big challenges that really knock us to our core? Because if you look at children and us as adults, we all experience emotions. Yes, children will experience differently, and how they heal through that is different to maybe how an adult might heal through that. For example, children love to draw and be expressive and get their emotions out through drawing. They might like to create things in a garden and bring in flowers and create little altars. Children love to be very expressive in that regard. And so do us adults, for that fact. And so when we're exposed to experience of grief and loss, it is a prime teaching moment to educate our children, which is often what I feel is not done. Because death in the Western world has not valued the beauty of death. It's always seen as something dark and horrible and really sad and distressing, and often we're missing the opportunity to celebrate a life lived well, to celebrate our loved ones and be so overjoyed with what they accomplished in their lifetime, because it is inevitable. Death will touch us all. And so if we're unprepared as not teaching our children, then we're not empowering our children to be these really strong, resilient beings, so that when it does touch them, they have the skills to be able to navigate those deep, deep, deep emotions. So that's super important to me, to access those teaching moments and educate our children. And you can have things in place when it comes to going to a funeral. You can have a dedicated person that one child actually really is connected to, that they would have a role model to be able to guide them through that process. And worst case scenario, if it gets too much, you have a backup plan where you can go outside for a time through that funeral experience. There's so many ways that we can really empower our children through that moment. And I feel that it's really important as a step that we all should be taking to access and utilize powerful teaching moments. So, what else creates grief to be so devastating? Well, I feel for many of us, as I've experienced in my work, people don't like to talk about death and dying. So maybe it's a great way for you to start to question and do a self-inquiry as to then what possibly are you fearing about death and dying? What have you been educated around through your parents that death and dying is? What's your perception? What's your beliefs? Are they your beliefs? Have these beliefs of fear around death and dying been instilled by somebody else? And possibly it's been a misguided understanding. So what does death mean to you? Do you fear your own mortality? That's a great place to start to understand what it means to you. Where do you think you might go? Maybe you might feel concerned that if you haven't lived a life that has been for the highest good of all, that maybe you're fearing that there's going to be a negative outcome, as in a karmic outcome. This is where we need to educate ourselves, because I don't believe that there is a hell. I think there's a misunderstanding of what that actually means. You only have to look at my videos when I talk about where I've spoken about our life review that we go through when we cross over. Absolutely believe personally that we go through a life review. And that life review, what that means is once we've crossed over, we enter into, say, like this energetic space of healing, but we go through a life review where it's almost like my understanding, or the best explanation I've received and learned, is that it's like a movie and it flashes before your eyes everything that you experienced, all of your emotions, whether they're positive or negative. And so this life review, when we're going through all of those emotions again, we actually physically experience all the times that we were most loving to people in the world, including ourselves, and where we haven't been. And I think the misunderstanding about hell, so to speak, is not necessarily hell, but it's reliving where we haven't been so kind. So that's another story, so I won't get into that anymore. But it's like, what does it mean to you? What are you choosing to discern as your truth about death and dying? Do you view it as a beautiful part and cycle of life? And then the other part of that is when grief feels devastating and we cling to our loved ones once they have crossed over. Why do we cling? I think one good reason that we cling is because there's generally can be unresolved business, so to speak. Maybe words that we wanted to express that we never got to express. Maybe we wanted to express love maybe all of a sudden we realize now how precious life is, and that some of the menial and trivial things that we get upset about are just not important. Because what happens in that experience of death is for all of us that have gone through grief and loss, you will agree that all of a sudden what becomes the most important is none of that stuff. The menial conversations where we've gotten upset with each other means it's not important. What's important is that we have always honored and loved each other. And what else isn't important is all the stuff. We cling to so much stuff in this life. And then death, when everything is completely like a clean slate, stripped clean, you realize the only thing that is really, really important is life, all of life. And so we feel we've missed the opportunities that were always available to us. And now we can't receive that again. It's gone. It's too late. And that creates a huge amount of regret. It creates a huge amount of regret because we can't have our time back again. And then you start to realize that what are you going to do with your life? Because all of a sudden you reflect on your life and you start reflecting and pondering, are you living your best life? Because all of a sudden you just want to make the most of your life because you realize how precious it is. Life is the greatest teacher for us all. Death is an absolutely amazing teacher. It has taught me so much about who I am. And I was going to, I think that's another topic. So I think it's really important to prevent or help prevent grief from being so devastating, such a devastating experience. We can make sure that experience is more beautiful through educating ourselves, having the conversations with our loved ones, how possibly do we want to be remembered at the funeral. You can actually create all of this stuff together and talk about it with your most significant other or most significant others and educate and talk about it and make it comfortable and include children into that experience because I think that's crucial. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this message. I hope there was something for you to reflect upon. Grief doesn't need to be so devastating. It's purely because of different individual experiences of either unresolved business, wishing we could have our time back again, realizing that there's so much more to this life than what we've possibly believed to be available to us. And there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear about death. I do not believe there's anything to fear. I really don't. I don't have the fear to cross over. I'm bloody excited because I'll get to see my Brett again physically. I know he's with me, and that's the other part is our loved ones never leave us. If anything, the connection becomes, see, when I say stronger, because that conflicts with me a little bit because I believed I had a really strong connection with him anyway, Brett, my sons. But the connection is so different. And how beautiful, let's finish on this. How beautiful is it to know that you have your very personal protector guiding you and leading you through life? Because I know that's absolutely true for me. I have one beautiful son on the other side of the veil who is protecting me and is like the eagle. He can see what's actually good for me and what's not, and he will look out for me. I've been told his energy is surrounded around me, which is amazing. But I also have my other beautiful son that's here, and I make the most of that with him. So it's so beautiful to go through this experience of life and experience all of life, and there is nothing to be afraid of. So I hope this encourages you to go through self-inquiry and understand what it means to you, understand what it means to your significant others, and how can you educate and plan and be prepared. Namaste.